Okay. Shout out to Shorty and Alex Garcia.
Shout out to Little Shorty.
Shout out to Yogi, I love you.
Shout out to Barbie.
Shout out to Bebe from Essentials.
Shout out to Ever.
Shout out to Mireya.
Shout out to Shy Boy.
Shout out to Kevin.
This goes a shout out to my best friend George from Electronics.
Shout out to Saud Montoya.
Shout out to Pablo Sucker.
Shout out to Sammy.
Shout out to Delilah Christine.
Shout out to Melody Reyes.
Shout out to La Giggles.
Shout out to Venus Minimal.
Shout out to James.
Shout out to Karma.
Shout out to Oscar Chan.
Shout out to David Rodriguez.
Shout out to Daniel Melendez.
Shout out to Original Motion.
Shout out to Bobby Duran, the one who's always hitting me.
Shout out to Victoria Patino.
Shout out to Amanda Taylor.
No, oh. Shout out to Tim Thornton, whatever.
Shout out to Micah.
Shout out to Carla.
Shout out to Freddie Ramirez.
Shout out to Emily Fu.
Shout out to O'Raylene.
Shout out to my other half, Brenda.
Shout out to Ashley Insanity.
Shout out to Gabby. I don't know how to say her last name.
Shout out to La Leslie.
Shout out to Yesenia Ojeda.
Shout out to Desiree.
Shout out to Taser Azul.
Shout out to Brian Blue Boys.
Shout out to Sol Azul.
Shout out to Christine.
Christian.
Whatever.
Shout out to Brittany Marie.
Shout out to Alex Vasquez.
Shout out to Sandy Orflidre.
Shout out to Leo Mar.
Shout out to, how do you say that name? How do you say the name? Chubby? The over? Say it.
Shout out to Alexis.
You're so stupid. I don't know how to say that. Shout out to Valerie, whatever, Rivera.
Shout out to Chila Van D. I don't know, yeah.
Shout out to Funky Punky.
Shout out to Alexis Aguilar. You sure I got it?
Oh, that's a guy, and the other was a
Oh,
girl.
okay.
Shout out to Alyssa Montagana, whatever.
Shout out to Original Yaya.
Shout out to Brian Puckett.
Shout out to Famas.
Shout out to Gabby Blue.
Shout out to Damage Victoria.
Shout out to Juliana Campos.
And shout out to David Gonzalez.